slow and steady against hard problems. Start by turning off your social apps and giving your brain a break. Get the fucking money. I'm serious. It is going to be made. It is going to be allocated. And you have a moral imperative to make sure that if you have a point of view that matters and you want to reflect it, you get it. I'm going to go get it. Other people are going to go get it. And then it will be about a competition of views.
Because every time I ask people, what is the definition of value? And everybody sort of like, has one really, it's a word that they can't define, right? We all know what it means, except when you go to investing, you have the oddest version of what value means. It's been that the language has been perverted. So I think what value means is it's worthwhile, it's useful, it's excellent, it's important, right? That's what value is, Is the Mona Lisa valuable? Yeah, it's worthwhile, it's excellent, it's important, right? Are airplanes valuable? Yeah, how incredible is this? Like these things have completely transformed GDP and transportation. They're useful, they're important. And then you go into the financial markets and you say, is Slack valuable? They'll say, my God, no, it's so expensive. Oh, this, oh, that. Is Snowflake valuable? No, my gosh. I mean, these things trade at huge multiples they come up with every excuse. And then I say, well, what is valuable? And they say, Philip Morris is valuable. And then they'll point to some number. Here's their ROIC, or here's their NOPAT, or, here's their dividend yield. Here's their free cash flow yield. Here's their multiple of sales. And basically, as long as the number is small, people turn their brains off. Right? Think about it. Literally, you could ask a blind monkey, on that dimension, how to rank growth stocks. And all they would do is just basically, rank by ascending order and cut it off before the numbers change into double digits. Pick your metric. That to me seems insane. Right? Philip Morris causes cancer. I mean, let's just be honest about it, Google organizes the world's information. What would you rather own? So my perspective on value is that I think I'm a value investor. I want to find things that are worthwhile, useful, important, and excellent. And I just want to buy them at a fair price. I think like investing is three things, right? There's like the first part, which is like the nuts and bolts, right? Meaning like the ones and zeros, being able to do the simple math, okay? Then there is sort of like this part, which is what are your biases telling you about the ones and zeros? And then there's judgment, when to listen to your biases, when to ignore them, and then how to size. And the great investors, I think, sum those three things together. And it's a constant, very complicated equation that's running through their minds. This is why, investing is a very individual tradecraft, because it's an impossible thing to document, right? I don't think Stan Druckenmiller or David Tepper's process is largely documentable. They could tell you till kingdom come how they did something in the past, but it will not inform how they'll make a decision in the future. Stevie Cohen, just add to the list of all the greats, Buffett. And so I think it's very important to realize that. So I do a lot of math. And then what I think about is what can go right and what can go wrong, and how am I interpreting the math? How aggressively do I want to compound? And then I try to make a decision and I size. I'll give you one example. In 2014, I got on the Amazon train probably before most people at scale. I presented it at Irisone, sort of like if you had to pick one meaningful money manager of repute who was on the record pro Amazon before me, it'd be hard to find. Since then, it's been easy. And I remember that process, Trey, was the following. We did the ones and zeros. And the ones and zeros were very hard to unpack. And the reason was because Jeff didn't generate a ton of free cash flow at the time. And then instead, what I said was like, look, let's assume that Jeff is a PM inside of a hedge fund and Amazon is actually a hedge fund. Why don't we calculate what his actual IRRs are, right? What's his return on invested capital? And there's a very famous slide in that presentation, which I love to this day, where what we did was we took the P&L and we looked at every single expense line. And we were able to show that how it systematically over years migrated to the revenue line. How much they spend on payments became Amazon payments. How much they spent on content became Kindle and Prime Video and a bunch of other things, on and on down the line. Compute became AWS. And then all of a sudden, at scales of billions of dollars of invested capital, Jeff had a 44% IRR. And so now all of a sudden my biases didn't matter. It was all about sizing. And so it's just to give you a sense that there's the P&L view. Then there's that next level of numerical judgment. And then there's your kind of innate idiosyncratic way of looking at that data to come to a conclusion. So I do a lot of it. I know when to double down and listen to it. And I know sometimes to look around the corner and then sometimes when to just ignore it. The part of the job where I allow my emotions to actually dictate. So, and I'll tell you why. On the way in, there's very little room for emotion because it should be very clinical. But once you're in, you have to appreciate that your mental outlook and a margin of safety and, sort of like your own mental health is now then the biggest determinant of success. We are in a point though, where I think SPACs are here to stay. And I think that that's a good thing. Historically, we've only had one way for companies to raise capital, which is a traditional IPO. Then we had a different way, which is a direct listing. Now we have a third way, which is a SPAC. And I think generally now you can see the capital markets mature. You'll have more banks competing to bring these companies public, and they'll give them a Chinese menu and say, pick path A, B, or C. Each of them will have different costs of capital. Each of them will be able to give a company different quantums of capital. And each of them will have different characteristics in terms of future returns. All of that, as long as there's more transparency and good regulation, is better for everybody. And so that's where I think we are. We're going to learn how to refine the rules. We'll make it tighter. I think sponsors will become fewer, but they'll be higher quality in general. But I think it's sort of one of three legitimate on-ramps to the public markets.